everybody. Welcome to Finance Agents Live. Good to have you here. Glad to be on another day. And today I am here with Bob from CredNext. CredNext is something we're super excited about. It is a credit report correction service. Don't confuse it with credit repair. I'm going to get into a lot of detail on how it's not credit repair because it's so much better. We're going to be talking about that today. But besides that, I'm just glad to have you here, glad for you guys to be here, and looking forward to get started. All right, so moving on. As a reminder, if this is your first time here, please subscribe. Your subscription allows us to provide this content for more people. But moving in, we're going to be talking today about CredNext. Now, CredNext is another exclusive partner of finance agents. It's something that's available for all the different finance agents in our network. And if you're not a finance agent, it's a great service that is exclusive with us, that's available for anybody in the country who is having trouble with the box, the credit box, right? If you are stuck inside the credit box and it's holding you back and you're trying to find a way out, maybe you've actually tried credit repair in the past and it hasn't worked. Well, we know why. Bob knows why. I'm not going to pretend like I know why. Bob knows why. Bob's been doing this for 35 years. And he's going to share some information with you. But again, if you're coming on, if you already know you need assistance, just go to CredNext.com, CredNext.com, put in your information, and Bob or somebody from his team is going to help you out. But as I get started, I see a bunch of faces or names that I know and recognize coming on. Thank you, everybody, for saying hello. I see Marcy, Rod, Frank. Always good to have you on, Frank. Deepak, Lawrence, Angela, and Lentuit, our favorite, another one of our companies here, Rod Johnson. Thanks, everybody, for coming on. And as we get started, and as we go through this, as you know, if you've been on one of our live events in the past, this is all about interaction. We're going to be talking mostly to fill the blanks between when you ask a question. All right, so please feel free to interact. Throw in, I would love to hear your complaints about credit repair because I've heard them for the last 10 years, and that'll give you a chance for you to hear about how what CredNext is different. You guys wouldn't really know this because you're not here, but I have been pitched by literally hundreds of credit repair companies over the years. And Trey, my partner, has got to the point where he twitches each time he hears credit repair. Doesn't want it, and there's a lot of reasons why. So today we're going to be talking about credit report correction. And without going into a ton of detail, what would you say is the main reason? And first of all, thank you, Bob. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
I appreciate it. What would you say is the one biggest difference between credit repair and credit report correction? We're going into a lot more detail throughout the call, but what's the big difference?
Okay, I think the big difference is that when a customer signs up with credit repair, after a period of time, they see deletions on the credit score, on the credit report, but the score doesn't jump high enough for them to get a loan, purchase a car, refinance their home, because the bureaus just work on credit deletions. They charge for deletions. They don't work on all the variables that make up the credit score.
Okay.
That's the big difference.
So there's a lot of stuff outside just the items that are on your report that determine what your score is. And beyond just the score, why do you guys care about your credit? It's not just the score, it's what you can do with it. And I know a lot of my clients come in and they're looking for money, they want to get more funding, and the score isn't the only thing that's holding them back, right? For our credit card program, there's 100 different items we look at on a credit report, and most of the time we don't even know the score. So what you do is help modify it, even things that you don't normally think of, all right? So we have an example, a regular credit repair example for people to see there. And in this example, this is, by the way, this is taken off another company, another credit repair company is presenting this as a really good result. So here's a client with a starting average score of 569. And if you look at their example, they pick the lowest score and try to do the highest. So they have it start at 520, go to 655. But if you really average it out, the starting average score is 569. They had 5 items deleted from the report, and their ending average score was 634, right? So that may seem like success, but I can tell you for my clients, if you come to me with a 634, there's still, 3 of our 6 funding programs you're excluded from. So it's better, but not enough. And now, unlike that, I've got an example of somebody who's gone through your service, and here we have a starting average score of 528, And in our notes, and in the example there, you see only 4 items deleted from the report, but their score jumped to 682. And you can see we actually have an example of one of the 3 bureaus got all the way up to a 728. So what is it that was different? Why are you able to get so much more with actually fewer deletions? And we have a note that has something to do with student loans. So,
well, first of all, there are more variables than just removing the negative information. The credit reporting industry has lots of information on the client, and one has to create a profile that looks good for the scoring system. So things like too many inquiries, too much data on a credit report. Each individual credit report is different. So one has to analyze each credit report and look for the different variables that affect that person's score. If a person has too recent inquiries, too much debt on their credit cards, that affects the credit score.
okay.
So there's more variables than just removing a negative information.
Great. And that particular person had something weird with their student loans that you were able to resolve, and it's not just a correction thing, it's just beyond the score.
Sure.
And it had a big impact.
Sure.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about your background and how you got started.
Well, it started when I was in the Navy. In the Navy, you didn't make much money. I think I made about $260 a month. But I had tons of credit cards. The banks weren't shy about giving me credit cards. So I started to use the credit cards, and quickly I got behind on my credit cards. Started to have bad credit, so when I left the Navy, instead of going to college like I wanted to do, I had to go to work to pay off a lot of the debt. And I realized then that it was a big problem with people. Not having good credit is really the number one thing financially. You have to have good credit. So what I did was I started working with a company, made some pretty good money, and started to pay down some of the debt. And then I realized that the people I was selling my wares to didn't have credit, so my sales went down. So I realized that, listen, there has to be something one can do to help these people. I mean, I see it every day, the people that live with bad credit. They can't.
Yeah, so do we.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Every day people come in. So you're in the Navy and they just threw credit at you, right? I had the similar experience when I was in college. They've actually passed a lot of laws to try to make it harder for the credit card companies to do that now. But when I was in college, you walked in and they almost handed you 3 or 4 credit cards. And you got these kids who just left home, they're out on their own, and they make stupid mistakes, and that follows them for 7 years. So it used to be the same thing in the Navy, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, that's good. So, you have a personal story, you went through this, and you were able to help. You saw how many people weren't able to buy your services when you were doing sales?
Yes. And then I realized that I saw an ad in the paper that said, salesperson for credit repair. And this was in the early 80s, and I thought, what an exciting thing to get into. I mean, I can really help with my credit and help other people. So I get into the industry in the early 80s and realized, saw a lot of things that happened in the credit repair industry and noticed the changes over the years. And what I realized is that the credit repair industry is kind of an industry that is built on a lot of misleading information. In other words, even the name credit repair is misleading because credit repair companies don't really deal with your credit. They deal with your credit report. The only people that have access to your credit are the creditors. They can give you credit or take it away. So the credit repair companies, when they say credit repair, are kind of misleading. So
they're not actually fixing your real credit.
No.
They're just fixing the report. Now, from a lender perspective, whatever's on the report is what exists. So if you can correct that report, that's what the lenders care about. But I guess what you're saying is you're looking at it on a more holistic basis because you actually care about the customer, and you know that even though you fixed the items on there, you haven't actually fixed their credit.
No.
So that's one of the important things.
You see, if a person has a bankruptcy on their credit report, we can get the bureaus to eliminate it from the credit report, but they're still bankrupt. So the credit stays the same. What we do is put people on better footing. We give them the tools and the information so they can acquire a higher credit score and maintain that credit score. There's a lot of information that is not given to clients because of the bureau's proprietary information. So what we do is give them the tools that enable them to, again, acquire a good score and maintain that score.
Okay, great. All right, so you get the score better, and then you're also working with the customer to maintain the score. One of the things that Bob said as we were talking about this outside is that seeing a lot of people come in, have their scores go through the roof, 6 months later, they're back, right?
Yeah.
And that's because you have to not only fix the score, you got to fix the behavior. It's not good enough to go through a rapid diet if you then go back to Burger King the next day, right?
I've learned
So that's part of your long-term process,
Correct.
is helping people correct it so it's a
Yeah.
permanent change.
Right, I've learned over the years that it's really the client's behavior that affects the credit score. Yeah, certainly the bureaus do make mistakes, and we work on correcting those mistakes. But if one doesn't change behavior, the scores pretty much go back to where they were originally. So we give the client, again, tools to help them navigate the credit score, keep it up so they can use it and prosper financially.
Okay, great. So let's talk a little bit about the credit bureaus. Because the credit bureaus really have everybody, let's say, by the neck, right? You really can't do anything unless the credit bureaus are on your side. So why don't you talk about what the current situation is with them, what it's like working with them, since you know them better than anybody else.
Well, the bureaus make lots of mistakes. They make hundreds of thousands of mistakes. And correcting the mistakes is one of the things that we do in our program. Again, the other part of our program is to build a profile to help you, so when the profile is built, when it goes through the scoring system, a better score comes out.
How do you see this profile? How do you know what the profile is? I mean, do they have it? Does each bureau have a different profile? They each have their own?
Well, one of the things that I can tell you about is the personal information. The first thing we do after giving people a consultation is we analyze their credit report, and we give them we take a personal look at this, and we update and correct the personal information. For instance, if someone were to have two Social Security numbers, that adversely affects the credit report. So we would find out the correct Social Security number, add that to the credit report. When that's corrected, the FICO gets adjusted. So the personal information is huge with regard to the credit score.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah, that's good. By the way, we have some comments coming in, and frankly, because of the positioning of the camera, I can't read them. So, Darren, are you still on? Are there any questions or comments? I see words, but I don't know what they are. Sorry, guys, I want this to be interactive, but I can't see the words because the camera's right in the way.
Okay, so we do have a question from Frank asking if our guest, Bob, knows Marion Hale, who wrote many of the books in the 80s. I'm assuming
like
books
personally?
Regarding credit repair or credit.
Marion Hale. You ever heard of Marion Hale?
Yes, I have.
Really?
Books, yes.
Okay.
I haven't read any of the books, but
Yeah. Okay, what do you know about her?
Well, all I know is she's written a book on credit repair and how to acquire deletions from the credit reporting agencies.
Okay, all right. So maybe she's one of the early persons that talks about how to remove that. I can tell you one thing, whatever is written in the 80s is sure going to be out of date now because everything changes every few years.
Anything
right?
that's put on a credit report can be removed by the bureaus if properly executed. You know, that's what credit repair people do.
I tell you, one of the things that was really interesting to me in talking to Bob before we launched this is that this service is not only for people with really bad credit. You could have good credit, right? In fact, I was talking about, I have pretty darn good credit. I'm not going to say amazing. It's not perfect. It's not an 850, which is that's about the top range. But I'm in the high 7s. And in talking to Bob, he pointed out some things that we can do that would actually improve my score. So if you're over there and you're thinking, I don't need credit repair, well, you don't need credit repair. But if you have a high score and you want it to be higher, if you're having trouble breaking that 800 barrier and you want to get the real impact of getting even better ratings, it might actually make sense for you to sign up. So if you're not sure you need this, fill in the form and talk to Bob or one of his people, and you'll find out if there's actually an opportunity there. Because some people you can improve even if there's nothing bad.
Yeah.
Right? If you find personal information that's wrong or anything, a lot of different things.
We do take a very personal approach with customers. We handle people not as a number or a credit score, but as a person. We find out what your financial goals are. We analyze your credit report. We go over the different things that have affected your credit score. So a personal approach is what we take.
Okay, great. We do have another question from Trey. What type of corrections do you do best? What are the ones you really...
Best, that's a good question. Anything that comes off is best.
Right.
Again, anything that could be put on a credit report can be taken off. So the bureaus hold no importance to credit to the accounts. In other words, to them, they get paid the same amount from the creditors to put on a bankruptcy as they do a late payment. They hold no importance to it. It's the creditor that holds importance to it. So getting the negatives removed, removing all the outdated, unverifiable, incorrect information is something that's done on a regular basis with us. It's the personal profile that we work on. I want to emphasize that. One cannot have a high credit score if they don't have a good profile. In other words, would you loan money to somebody that was out of work, lived in a bad area, let's say had a lot of debt? Those things affect the credit score a lot more than just the negative information.
Right, okay. And we have another example up here. Here's somebody who came in, starting score 567, you got them up to 723 average. There are 9 items deleted from the report, and I think we have them all listed there. But what I remember, we talked about this, the main thing was personal information was completely wrong. They had a bunch of incorrect addresses, or something, right?
So well, there was a lot of fraud on that particular account. So
right.
A lot of times people have their accounts stolen or their information stolen, and people add things to their credit report. So by removing a lot of that stuff and getting the correct personal information certainly affects the credit score. Not just removing the negative information, which is part of the process, but not the whole process.
Right, and I can say that we do background checks when people open sales offices with us, and I've seen all sorts of stuff. I've seen things where there are 22 different people using that same Social Security number to get work across the U.S. So I'm sure you probably see some crazy stuff over the years too. Mm-hmm. All right, moving on. Let's go on. I think we have a next slide up here. Let's talk about why credit report correction is better. I mean, we've already touched on it a little bit, but maybe get into some more specifics. How would you say specifically credit report correction is better and different than credit repair?
Well, again, the credit repair industry focuses on one thing, and that's removing negative information. You pay for deletions. They've convinced the entire nation that by removing negative information, we've done our job. The problem is, is when you go to a credit repair company, you pay your money, you do get deletions, you do get some results. I'm not saying you don't. The problem is when you go back to your mortgage company to refinance or purchase, they tell you you've gone from a 590 to a 630, you're still not high enough to get a loan.
I've seen people get their entire reports erased, by the way,
yeah,
where it just disappears for 2 months. If you're trying to get something done,
so
that's a hard way to do it.
By working on all the variables that affect the credit score, in fact, we will mention those variables when you call in and get a consultation. By working on all the variables, we're able to jump the scores higher than the typical credit repair company. It isn't just the negative information that affects the credit scores. Debt to income is huge. Now, the bureaus describe debt to income as the limit, not the balance. So if you have a credit card with a $100,000 limit and a zero balance, your debt is $100,000. So the debt is huge with regard to the credit score.
Right, yeah.
And the credit repair companies don't address that. They only go after negative information. So the only one that wins in a credit report situation is the person collecting the credit repair money. They get the money for the deletions. You don't get your loan. The mortgage broker doesn't get his commission. They're the only ones that win. When you do business with us at Credit Report Correction, at CredNext, what we do is find out why you want to get your credit cleaned up. What particular goals you have. For instance, if you have to be at 680 to get an FHA loan, we make sure that we talk to your broker, find out what it is that you have to have, what score, we get you up over that score, so you get your loan, the mortgage broker gets his loan, we get our fee, everybody wins. So our goal is to get you what you want, not to get a few negatives off your credit report and think that you've had a good service.
Right. For example, if you're with us because you want to get funding, depending on what type of funding that you want to get, they might do different modifications. So if you sign up with CredNext, but it's because you want to get a specific sort of funding, make sure that they know and we know so we can work together and optimize it. Because there's some things that'll boost your score but won't increase your chance of getting funding. We have more comments coming in. Darren.
All right, so we have a few more comments. Frank actually talked about Marion, a man who was the grandfather of the modern credit restoration. So
Grandmother, maybe?
Yeah, I can assume. But then Trey asked, how long does it take to be contacted once someone submits their information?
Okay.
Okay, good question. What we do is we have people on the phone waiting for your calls. We set up a phone interview, and then we talk. As soon as we set up the phone interview, we take your call and go over our program.
All right. Generally, within a 24-hour period,
Yes.
you should be contacted.
Yes.
Okay. Veronica wants to know, do you assist with bankruptcy, deletion, and child support?
Yes. Again, anything that could be put on a credit report can be removed because you're dealing with the reporting of the debt, not the debt. In other words, when you're finished with our program, believe it or not, you'll still have bad credit. What will happen is you'll have a higher credit score because we deal with the reporting of the debt, not the debt. So child support, bankruptcies, tax lien foreclosures, they've all been removed from credit reports. Again, anything that can be put on a credit report can be removed.
There's got to be some things that are easier than others, right? Is there?
Easier, no.
No, it's all the same.
No, it's all because what you're doing is you're getting the bureaus to eliminate the inaccurate, unverifiable, incorrect information. And by law, they have 30 working days to verify that information. And if they miss that time frame, then they either delete it or they can be sued for the information, for not verifying it. To answer your question again, yes, we've removed child support, bankruptcies, tax liens, foreclosures, you name it.
Yeah, we actually have a bankruptcy example a little bit later. So.
Yeah. And how long on average does this process take?
Well, the longer you stay on the program, the higher the score goes. Again, as I said in the beginning, what we do is give you the tools to acquire a high credit score and to maintain it. So we'll help you. We'll get your boat, your ship built, but you have to navigate it and steer it. We'll help you along the way. The average time it usually takes to get to a point where you can function again is usually about 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
If I could do it any quicker, I'd be a gazillionaire.
Right. Great. Well, so it takes as long as it takes, right? And I think one of the things that you mentioned to me is it took a lot of these people 15 years to get into the mess that they're in.
Yes.
It takes a little while to unwind some of this stuff.
Right. One has to be patient. Like anything else, losing weight, exercising, eating better, one has to be patient with this. And you need information and tools. You don't need a few deletions to be sent on your way. And that's what the industry has done. They've let the public know that, listen, what we do in credit repair is help you. What they do is eliminate negative information that you could have done yourself.
Right. Okay. And there are 3 different reporting agencies, so you might have early success with one, and it might take a little bit longer for others. So it's one of the reasons that it takes some time. But you got to invest the time in order to get the result that you're looking for.
When we're doing the work, we don't control the removing of the negative information or the score. We don't know how much work the bureaus have that particular month, how many people are on vacation or sick, the workload. So the average time to take people, let's say from the mid-5s, low 6s, to bring them up close to 7, over 7, is about 4 to 6 months. Again, the longer you stay, the higher the score goes. Assuming that you do a few things we ask you to do along the way, like don't use your credit while we're working on your credit scores, and mail in all the information you get from the bureaus to us.
And Frank and Marion, I apologize to you. Marion is apparently a man and not a woman, so okay. Thanks for pointing that out, Frank. I appreciate it. I see Anthony Morgan on here. Good to see you, another one of our long-term offices. What's his question, Darren?
How long the process takes.
Oh, all right. Well, we already answered it. Perfect. Well, let's go on with some more of these benefits. So lower interest rates, that is a direct benefit from the credit report correction. You're going to get approved for more financing. Hopefully you're approved with us. We turn down people all day long. I hate doing it, but we know what the banks and lenders will accept. If we can fix it, then we would love to have you as a customer. You have more negotiating power, avoid employment issues. More and more employers are screening people out for having credit problems. Of course, if you're on this, you're probably a business owner, so you're not going to screen yourself out. Maybe that's why you want to start your own business. So whatever that reason is great. Easier to rent. Some people will not rent to you if they see you have credit issues in the past, maybe prior expulsions where you get evicted from so you can remove evictions, right? Because that's a public record. Anything that can be put on can be put off. Better rates on insurance and cell phone. This is my favorite one. Date better men or women, right? Bob says, I've been out of the dating game for a long time.
Well, so have I.
Right. But he says that people are checking credit when they start dating on dating programs.
They sure are.
Where did you hear about this?
It's on the internet. You can call companies and they can do background checks and find credit scores of people before you date them.
All right, so sign up at Tinder and CredNext
Well,
at the
I don't know
same
about
time.
Tinder, but
All right. More benefits. You get better homes, cars, credit cards. They're excluding people from the military for having bad credit.
yes.
Never heard of that one before. And if you're watching this and something's holding you back, you already know what the issues are. But I think the biggest thing, when you sum it all up from our conversations, is more self-confidence. Once people repair or enhance or fix or correct their credit, they're a different person.
They are.
Right?
They are. They have more pride in what they do. They have. They feel better. You turn people's lives around. You were mentioning before about business people. A lot of my clients are businessmen, and businessmen need money. They need cash, credit, and customers. And the reason I got together with Tim and his associates is because they put people in business. They get them money. And along with that, we add to their credit score so they can acquire this money that they can get. So it's a perfect fit. He has a great organization that puts people in their own business, marketing services that people need. So it's a great 1-2 kind of punch.
Right, I appreciate it. Yeah, and you know what? There's nothing I hate more than when an entrepreneur calls us, has a great idea and wants to go after it and just doesn't qualify. Just inside, not being able to give something that they want is just a shame, right? So if we can fix that and get it back into the system, allow them to start their business and change their life, that is a blessing. All right, here's another example. Average score was 629, had 6 items deleted from the report. But here's what was interesting about this one. This person had 2 Social Security numbers, right? How does that happen?
Well, a lot of times, a lot of people will use other people's Social Security numbers. It happens a lot of time in families.
Client didn't even know it, right?
No,
Had no
didn't.
idea they had
No.
2 Social Security numbers.
No.
Right. So that was you were able to get a huge jump from 629 to 781.
Well, 2 Social Security numbers adversely affect the credit score. The personal
bad.
information has to be correct.
right. I can
So-
imagine you wouldn't
so
get approved
what
for
we
anything.
do is we kind of correct and update the personal information. That's what's so neat about what we do.
Okay, great. All right, so let's say somebody's interested, they want to get started. Here's how to get started. If you want to get your initial consultation and find out if Bob and his team have something that can actually help you out, if you're not sure, if you're just curious, go to CredNext, put in your information, and you'll get a call within 24 hours, and he or someone on his team will sort of go through the situation and see if there's going to be a fit.
Yeah, when you do call, you're going to hear things you've never heard before. So I'm anxious.
Like you can be approved,
Yes.
or like there's hope.
Yes.
Right? Okay, you're also going to need to set up Privacy Guard, which is the way that they're going to be able to monitor your success as you go through the program. It's the only extra thing that you have to do. And then from there, profit. Right? Then success. Okay, so what are some of the requirements and restrictions that we get into? What are some of the things that, you mentioned this before, what can you not do while in your service?
We ask you not to use your credit. We don't want you to add debt. Let me back up a minute. The credit reports are fluid. In other words, if you have a 700 FICO score, it doesn't stay 700 for the duration. People pay off debt, they acquire debt, mistakes are made on their credit reports, there's fraud, all kinds of fraud. So one has to understand that the credit reports are fluid. So what we do is we give you the tools again to maintain a good credit score, and we start with a big jump. We get you started, and then we give you the tools and the information to keep you up there so you don't fall down again. A lot of people for instance, I've worked on people's credit for 3 or 4 months, get them up there to get a great loan. They get a really good loan and then miss the next 2 payments on the loan. They're right back to where they were again.
Never seen that happen before.
Oh, really?
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I've seen all sorts of crazy stuff.
So the point is that behavior is the key to this to maintaining and acquiring a high credit score. So again, by giving you this information when you call in, it'll give you a really good jump on how to do that. Okay.
All right, so while you're in the process, don't go applying for credit.
Correct.
And by the way, there's only so much you could do. If you are not fully done with credit report correction and you go and do your applications before you're done. I've seen lots of people that get super anxious, they want to get going, they start. You just get a bunch of new things that now have to be corrected before you can actually go do a full app. And if you apply it at a bank, you can't apply again within a short period of time and have them expect something to be
A lot
very
of
different.
times a client will see the scores raised, and a person that hasn't had good scores in a long time will think it's Christmas, and they go out and go crazy. So what you have to do is understand what you're doing with your credit scores. Your behavior is extremely important.
I've seen people do that just when we approve them. They come in and say, yeah, you're approved for 100 grand, and then they go spend the money before I actually get it for them, and now we can't get them the money. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
All right, let's see. How to refer clients. Okay, so if you're on here and you're a finance agent and you know you're going to have a lot of people that need this. I mean, you know already because you refer them in for funding and they get denied. And so now you have a solution. You could direct market credit report correction. The way to do that is if you're a finance agent, just generate interest in the program. There's 4 different ways to create a lead and try to market to people with impacted credit or people that can't get as much money as they want, which in my opinion is 95% of the people we talk to. All right, so the 4 ways to create a lead, you should already know those. They're pretty simple. First, just go manually enter it into the finance agent portal. If you're not an agent yet, just go sign up, and this is the dashboard that everybody has. Go to the input lead page, put in the info, done. We'll follow up. Make sure to denote that it's for credit report correction. Second is you can market the link right on your dashboard. You're going to have a marketing link. It'll be crednext.com/ and 4 or 5 digits. That is your member number. Market with the member number so that you get credit. Third, you're going to shoot off an email to lead@24hourapprovals.com. Make sure it's coming from the email address that you used to create your agent account, and then we'll follow up. And last but not least, you just give us a call, or Trey. Just call Trey specifically. Just kidding. Whatever name and number is on the top of your dashboard is your personal rep. Call or email that person if you're having trouble with the system, and we'll get them in and make sure that they get helped. So it's easy enough to create a lead. Here's another example. I love this example. We have an example here where it is like, I don't even know how many deletions you have. This person somehow set up, 16 or 17 Capital One cards? I didn't even know that was possible. By the way, and I love saying this, we had a client apply once that had 250 inquiries. So, you know, you're going to see some amazing stuff. This is amazing to me. And you got all of those deleted. I don't know how you did that. So.
Well, I'm not going to tell you right now.
Right? That's your secret system. Well, that's why they get paid all the money. So this person went from a 528 to just over 800. That's actually a better score than me, and I've been doing great on my credit forever. So, 34 items deleted, that's what it was, and public record errors was the big thing that you were able to do that made a big change for them. And that's a good example of somebody with some bad behaviors, right? So don't open up 16 Capital One cards. I don't even know how that's possible. All right, another example, I think it's the last example we're going to show. Somebody came in with a 501, which is just about, I've seen people in the high 300s, but not many. A 501 is pretty darn low. Had 13 items. This person had a Chapter 13 bankruptcy that you got removed. So there's an example of someone who had public records and bankruptcy removed, and then the ending average score afterwards, 682. So good examples. And again, remember, the scores going up is not just the deletions. That's regular credit repair. You can get that other places. But the other things they do is the magic and what makes this different from normal credit repair. All right, so what's the investment? If you want to get into you want to get this assistance, you want to work with Bob, I believe we have a slide right here. It's going to be a $99 setup fee. That covers your setup and your initial consultation where you go through and describe all the different changes that we're going to be able to do.
And the analysis report?
The analysis report. I've seen one. It's like a 22-page, well, it depends on what you got in there, but a big detailed analysis report that shows all the things that need to be changed. And then it's just $99 a month. Stay as long as you want. Cancel at any time. And again, one of the interesting things, I'm looking at this differently than I ever did credit repair. If you have good credit, you wouldn't go sign up for credit repair. But if you have good credit, you can have better credit through all the different changes. People go sign up for LifeLock or the other services, credit reporting services, and pay some of these $50 a month. You can instead work with somebody who's actually actively working to improve your scores and improve your credad situation. So maybe cancel True Credit and then sign up for this instead, and you're actually going to be better off than if you just use a reporting service.
People maintain all kinds of things in their life. They maintain their lawn, their hair, all kinds of things. I don't understand why they wouldn't maintain one of the most important financial instruments that they have is a credit report.
You can have amazing hair like me, and it won't make you any more money. But having a good credit report, having it be optimized, can save you a ton of money. Imagine if you get just a half a point less on your mortgage loan.
Times 30
how
years.
much money that's going to save you over, even if you only keep the same for 7 years, you might save $10,000 or more. So it can have a dramatic impact. All right, so if you are an agent with us and you refer somebody in direct to CredNext, they handle all the work. All you got to do is get them into the system, and you get a $10 a month referral fee for as long as they're in. So as long as it takes in order to get their stuff fixed and enhanced, that's when you'll get. That's how long you'll get paid. Darren, are there more comments come in or no? Okay, all right. Somebody just asked how much the service is. Boom, we just put it there. Here's a question. Could you read that, Darren?
All right, so if you remove a bankruptcy and a lender asks you've never filed bankruptcy, you still have to say yes. Is that correct?
Correct. Or you don't have to answer the question.
I just skipped the question, huh? Okay, all right. So again, they haven't changed your actual credit. They just changed what reports, which is going to make your life a lot easier.
What we've done is worked on removing the reporting of the debt, negative information that's incorrect, unverifiable, or unverifiable, incorrect, or incorrect or unverifiable. We don't do anything with the debt. The debt stays the same. We deal, again, with the reporting of the debt, not the debt. And one has to make a distinction between credit and the credit report. Okay? That's very important. You can't buy anything with a credit report. You can buy it with a credit card, that's your credit. The credit report just tells people how you pay your bills, what kind of person you are, and you get a three-digit score that follows you around for the duration. They don't even know what type, they don't even know you as a person, but they've labeled you with a three-digit number. What we do is make the number higher.
Yeah, like I've got one specific example. Let's say you went through, there's some services out there where you go to get business funding and they rack you up with a ton of personal debt. Well, that's really business debt. If you can get that to stop reporting, that's going to liberate your credit score. You're going to really change your debt-to-income ratio. That could have a dramatic impact. Even if you have good credit, but you just have that high debt, by modifying that, it's going to be a big improvement. Looks like Darren's ready to read off another one.
Yeah, so Marcy wants to know, if you cancel the program and later want to join again, do you pay another setup fee?
No, that's a very good question, no.
All right. Once you're in, you're in. Once you're a member, and come back. Hopefully you don't need to come back, but with that said, you never know. It might make sense to come back every year and start back up again and fix things.
Our goal is to help people change their life financially. Again, the credit score is a direct reflection of people's financial behavior. There are exceptions: a bad divorce, a business investment that's gone awry, the market crash. But by and large, if one has always been in the high fives, low sixes, that's the behavior. In order to keep a high score and maintain a high score, one has to change behavior. And you're not going to get that from the traditional credit repair companies. They want to charge you for deletions they can get from the bureaus. And that's the difference. We actually care about your credit score. We want people to have good credit scores so the whole world, the whole economy changes.
Right, and by the way, divorce is a big one, man. I've seen people's credit get annihilated in a divorce. If you want to have good credit, don't get divorced, right? Divorce is bad, or medical. Those are the two things that I see that really knock people off their feet. Everything's going great, they go through a divorce, all of a sudden their ex-spouse stops paying on everything, and then they're just hosed. Mm-hmm. Or you get in a big car wreck, and maybe before the Affordable Care Act, or maybe still, you don't have insurance, you don't work for 6 months, even a month. Even somebody doesn't work for 2 weeks, it can totally decimate your credit.
Mm-hmm. I see it every day, Tim.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Another comment?
Yeah, so ENN328 wants to know, if my only credit issue is high utilization, is the service helpful?
Yes.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. That's one of the interesting things that I didn't think about before. If you have high debt utilization, then by strategically, especially, let's be honest, we're not trying to remove correctly reporting things, but to me, business debt that's reported to personal, it shouldn't be reporting to personal, right? It shouldn't. I don't know why they do it. And some of the cards, so you might have signed up for a credit card with a lender who gave you a business card and wasn't reporting to personal. After 6 months, they changed their mind. I've seen a lot of credit card companies change over the last 5 years where they weren't reporting to personal. Discover Card, Barclays, I can name off a whole list. Business debt, now it's reporting to personal. You can have it removed and have a massive increase in your credit score.
What we're going to show you when you call us is what a perfect credit report should look like, and people in our office try to get as close to that stencil as quickly as possible.
Great. All right, now we have some questions in here. We're going to go through this a little quicker. The first one's, are there any costs? Oh, actually, are there any other costs? All right, so we got $99 setup and $99 a month. What other costs could there be?
The only thing is to join Privacy Guard.
Okay.
It's
all
$1 to start and $19 a month. We recommend you stay on it monthly. That'll give us an idea of the score. It'll give you an idea how the score is going, and it'll give us the credit report live so we can work on it.
Okay, but nothing else, no other costs?
No.
All right, what's the next question? How long will this process take? We already answered this. Generally 4 or 5 months, but it really depends. If you come in with a lot of problems, it could be longer, or if you just have a couple things, you might be able to knock it off within a couple of months.
Again, the longer you stay, the higher the score goes. So it's up to you.
Great. Do you give husband-wife discounts? I got this question yesterday, and honestly, the price is so low. By the way, guys, we refer people to, I've been doing this for a long time. I've referred people to sign up for credit repair where they did less than Bob does, and people paid $5,000 for the service. $100 a month is nothing. It's a steal. So unfortunately, there's no husband-wife discounts. There's no coming with a club of 20 people. $100, I mean, we got to cover the cost in order to make sure you get the service that you require. I mean, you want to actually have people to be able to answer the phones, right?
I tell you, if I could give it away, I would, but I need the money to keep people on board working with me to help more people. So that's why we do it.
Okay, great. Can you remove bankruptcies? We already talked about this and showed an example of it,
Well,
so definitely we can.
again,
Is there a difference between 13 or 11 or 7?
I can't remove the bankruptcy. I can remove the reporting of the bankruptcy. So one has to get the information correct. I remove the reporting of the debt, not the debt. So in other words, if you have a tax lien, a foreclosure, a bankruptcy, those things can be removed from the credit report. But you still have that on your credit. You still are bankrupt. You still have a tax lien. It just doesn't appear on the credit report.
Okay, great. Next one. I have great credit. Is there any reason I should sign up? And we already talked about this a little bit. You know, it's worth at least having a conversation with Bob or somebody that he works with to see if there's anything you do. If you call in and they look at you and after an analysis say they'll tell you if there's nothing that they could do for you if your credit is that perfect. But I can tell you my credit is pretty darn good and has been for a long time. And I'm going to go through the service to see what sort of impact I can get. And I believe that...
Well, no one can predict the future. Look what happened in 2008 and 2009. The market collapsed, the real estate market. People that were extremely high scores and wealthy people were destroyed. So if that can happen to them, it can happen to anybody. Having a 780, 800 FICO score isn't a guarantee you're going to have it the rest of your life. To maintain that would be a smart move. Yeah,
and by the way, there's strategic things that he was telling me about that he could do to help you prepare in case something does happen like that. So, you know, he'll go over that individually for each person that comes in. Can I use fill in the blank instead of Privacy Guard? Let's say somebody has credit check, total, identity, whatever.
No, Privacy Guard is the one we recommend. It gives us more information. It logs into our back-end system, so you can log in and find out what's going on with your credit scores at any particular time. So we recommend Privacy Guard.
Okay, great. All right, I tried credit repair before. It didn't work. Why should I sign up with CredNext?
Well, as I said before, the credit repair industry does one thing and one thing only. They write letters to the bureaus on your behalf disputing negative information. I'm not saying that they don't get results, they do. The problem is just removing some incorrect information doesn't raise the scores high enough for people to get the things that they want. People don't want great scores necessarily, they want things.
Right.
What good is a great score if you can't get the car you want, if you can't get a loan, refinance your home? I used to give this example when my son was young. He used to take the footstool and go in the kitchen and climb up into the cupboards and get the candy. Well, credit repair was the footstool. My company is the candy. We raise the score so you can actually get what you want, not look at a credit report with 5 deletions and not be able to get what you want.
Okay, great. Awesome. Do we have any more, or is that the last one? Okay, why are you asking for blank? Are there things that you ask for during the process? One of the things you mentioned is that if the client has mailed things from the bureaus, they need to provide them to you.
Yes, what we'd like you to do is when we sign you up, we go over the program extensively and tell you what to expect, what's going to happen. But the only really thing you have to worry about or be concerned about is when you get results from the bureaus, any correspondence you get, to mail it to my office. That way we can stay up on the process.
All right, we got a couple more questions. Darren, would you mind reading those off? Caught him by surprise. Deepak and Rod.
Okay, so can you mention again what the sign-up fee and the monthly payment is to the client?
Sure, yeah, and by the way, there's a special offer at the end of it. For everybody who stuck it out and stayed to the end, we're not quite there yet. There's a special offer for the next week, and I'll go over that in a second. But it's pretty simple. $99 sign up, $99 a month. So if you were to sign up today, it'd be $99. A month from now, it's $99. And a month after that, it's $99. And you stay on as long as you're getting a benefit, right? What's the next question?
And Rod Johnson, I'm assuming he's meaning Kroll. He says, what about Krill and others that are looked at? I'm assuming
Kroll, I've seen that movie.
Data?
That's a long time ago, right?
Kroll?
It's too old for you.
Kroll.
Just get What's Krill? Do you know what Krill is? You ever heard of Krill?
I think it's Kroll.
What's Kroll?
Kroll factual data.
Well, we deal with the 3 bureaus, the 3 national bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. There are hundreds of reporting agencies around the country, but they all get their information from those 3. Once we remove information from those 3 and the scores are raised, all the credit reporting agencies have that score and information removed.
Great. I see a hi from G. Lou Stevens. Gilu? Hi. All right. Anyway, are we got any more of these, Darren? Or no? I'm in on the slides. What are the most difficult items to remove from a credit report? There's got to be some things that are easier than others, right?
No, because we're not removing it based on the importance of the account. We're removing it because of the bureau's their mistakes, and they're either inaccurate, unverifiable, or incorrect. So to the bureaus, again, they hold no importance on accounts. They get paid to put things on, not take things off. So to the bureaus, a bankruptcy, removing a bankruptcy has no more importance than removing a late payment. It's just an item that they have to remove because it was incorrect, or unverifiable, or incorrect, unverifiable, or
there's a third thing, right?
Yeah.
Incorrect, unverifiable, or inaccurate.
Inaccurate.
There
right.
it is. All right. Deepak had another question. Can student debt be taken off of the reporting? And again, Bob's rule, we're going to start calling this Bob's rule. If it can be put on a credit report, it can be taken off.
Understand that when you're dealing with the credit report, you're dealing with the reporting of the debt, not the fact that that is the debt. In other words, again, if one were to have a tax lien, a foreclosure, the bureaus are just reporting that. The foreclosure is held by the bank. The bankruptcy is held by the courts. So in other words, the debt remains, but the reporting of the debt is gone.
Which is a relief, for sure. I see another one from Frank. Darren, what is that?
So if a client had a 520 coming into finance agents and Darren saw it.
And Darren saw it, okay.
So that's going to make a difference, you know. Yes.
Okay.
Then he came back with a 720. Will we fund that client?
Frank knows that it's not that simple. When we fund a client, it depends on the funding program, it depends on a lot of different scenarios, but let's just, in a simple basis, if the client comes in and gets declined but is able to drastically improve their situation and they now qualify, for sure. I mean, we want to fund people. We work for the clients, we don't work for the banks or the lenders. So definitely assuming that having a 720 actually makes them qualify, which in general does. 720, as a general rule, qualifies for just about any type of financing. Of course, if it's business loans, you got to have the business to back it up, or if it's real estate, we don't really care about the credit at all. We care about the real estate, so there are a lot of different scenarios, but in general, yes.
Yeah. And Lentuit wants to know, are you seeing credit agencies comply with new regulations not reporting judgments, liens, or how is that impacting scores?
Yeah, that's a new change that just happened recently. I'm not
I haven't seen any of it as yet, no.
right. So a new change that happened is they're going to stop reporting liens on
Wonderful.
credit reports.
Wonderful. I've read about that, yes.
Okay, yeah, we're hearing about some of it.
It's, again, it doesn't affect what we do. We work on all the variables that affect the credit score. The bureaus have all kinds of information on a customer. It isn't just what you see on the credit reports that they send you. All kinds of information as the bureaus have.
Okay, great. We have a few more questions, but real quick, if this is your first time with us, or if you like our show and you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. Remember, your subscription is what gives us the ability in order to keep doing these shows and get more information out to more people. Again, as a thank you for sticking through the show, we have a special offer we're going to bring it in right in the end, so we'll go to that. What's the last question? Is that last question relevant? See, something just came in.
So Daniel wants to know, does your company wipe out the credit report entries that have exceeded the timelines for the entries?
Credit report entries that have exceeded the timelines. I think maybe what they're talking about is some people have things still reporting that should have dropped off because it's been 7 years, and maybe a debt collection company has sort of renewed it.
Yeah, what we do, what we do, is first of all, we update and correct the personal information. Then we work on removing all the outdated, unverifiable, incorrect information. We work on removing inquiries. We work on the debt to income. And then we give you tools and we give you information to keep your score up and to maintain that score.
Okay, great. All right, well, let's go ahead and get to the special offer. I know people are really interested in getting to that. We have a special offer. Since today is the day we are launching CredNext, and we're sort of trial launch it, but today is the big launch, so we should have some balloons in here. Darren, where's our balloons? I'm just kidding. All right, so today is the launch. So if you sign up for this service within the next week, before November 15th, if you're watching this a year from now, I'm sorry you missed it. But if you're here now live with us, which is what our show is about, then you can get 25% off your service for the entire time you're signed up. That means it's a $75 setup fee and $75 a month. If it takes if for some reason it took 3 years, you get $75, which it never does, but you get $75 per month instead of $99. You're saving $25. Of course, that's really paltry next to the improvement that you're going to get to your scores. The $25 that you save is nothing next to the $10,000 that you save by getting a better mortgage or by having a better life by being able to get a mortgage when you couldn't get one at all before. Mm-hmm. But as a cherry on top, you get $25 off. And if you're interested, if you're a public person, you could be a test case that we discuss on our show. All right, so the people that sign up within the next week, myself included, we are going to come back a few months from now and show what happened. We'll show you exactly what happened with the people. Of course, if you don't want to, we're not going to publicly display you. But if you're interested, then you could be a test case and show the world if this is for real, right? I mean, we already showed you 5 different examples of people whose lives were absolutely changed, often some of them with 200-point increases. So you know that it can work. But let's see actual test cases of Rod, you're in, I'm in too, and I know some other people are going to be doing this, so awesome. Be one of our test cases, and we can even have you on the phone, we could show you the exact score. Of course, we'll redact all the super embarrassing things you have, but but we can do it. Be part of the test case. I'm excited to try this out myself and see, can you really boost my score by 50 points when I don't have a single negative thing on there? That's what we're going to try to do, and anybody else that wants to participate, I'm excited about it. All right, unless we have anything else, we do. I got a finger up from what.
So we got one question from Lou. Are the credit repair companies providing the same know-how on the changes and removing bad credit as your company does?
Repeat the question.
Are the credit reporting companies providing the same know-how on the changes? I mean, you know,
deleting the information?
Yeah, I mean, I know you can do some of these things on your own, just like you could go build your own house, but it's sure not going to be easy.
Working with the deletions, what we do different from credit repairs, we not only work with the bureaus, but we work with the creditors. We challenge the accounts with the creditors as much as we do the bureaus. And we don't send any letters out, so to speak. We use dispute forms that come with the credit reports.
Okay, all right, that's interesting. Kevin, you're in. Awesome. Okay, so Rod is in, Kevin's in, I'm in. I know we got some other people that are going to be in. So excellent. Look forward to doing this. Byron has a question. What is that, Dan?
So I had over 720, started a business and used credit cards. Now my score has dropped to around 680. Is this something that you can help with?
Yes. Yes, you've acquired a lot of debt. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably, I see it all the time. People start a business, and the easiest thing to do, and often the only kind of money that's available, is just using your own personal credit cards, because it works, and I get it, but then, boom, a rock drops on your credit, and next thing you know, you can't get a mortgage, you can't get a car loan, you have a lot of, so definitely, that means you're in, Byron. You're in the test group, and you are exactly like a lot of people that I talk to all the time. Very common for this to happen. All right, James says he's expecting a call today. Perfect. Fill in your information, and we'll make sure that happens. What's the next one from Andre?
So what can you do if one of the bureaus, Equifax for example, their score disappeared? I do have record, but no score.
Say that again.
The person has a record on Equifax, but the score has disappeared.
Well,
what is that?
Again, what we have to do is judge each person on their individual scenario. So what we would do is contact the bureaus and find out why this is happening and address it.
Is that maybe just a glitch at however he's
looking
at his score?
Could be a mistake by the bureaus, or the credit is not reporting to a particular bureau. A lot of things, but I'd have to look at the credit report, and that's where Privacy Guard comes in.
Okay, great. Awesome. Well, good. Make sure to get your information in, and you can talk to Bob or somebody on his team, and they can try to find out exactly what the issue is to see if it's just a glitch or if it's a long-term problem. But just about anything can be fixed, assuming it's real.
We take a personal approach to everybody. You're not a number with us, you're a person. So we get to know you. We want to develop a relationship. Because once scores are raised, we hope you come back for other services that we offer.
Okay, great. All right, well, with that, unless there's anything else, we'll go ahead and wrap it up for the day. Again, a big thank you, Bob, to coming on.
My
I
pleasure.
appreciate it. He didn't want to be on this. I'm just between you and me. Wasn't excited about going live on Finance Agents Live, but I think it was great. And also thank you for partnering with us. All our sales, our member offices are really going to appreciate having this exclusive product. It's an exclusive product. Anybody goes to CredNext, it's only available through Finance Agents and through our member offices. So I'm excited about that, and I look forward to getting some test cases in. If you're watching this and you're curious, if you're just curious, can it happen? What's a few $100 if you can increase your score by 50 points, even if it's already amazing? What if you can get into the 800s? Let's see what we can do. So thanks, everybody, for coming on. Don't forget to subscribe, and We Power Indianapolis is in. We get the most interesting names on YouTube. Now, one of the things I wasn't expecting when we started this show is we had somebody who made a bunch of comments on one of our other episodes called Snotball, right?
Oh.
That's so however that happens, I don't know, but we're in. Okay, Rod is in. Tatiana is in. Awesome. Thanks, everybody, for coming on, and we look forward to doing a lot more deals together. Talk to you soon.